Hi, we are NeuroTech at UIUC, a student-run neurotech organization based out of the University of Illinois at Urbana, Champaign. NeuroTech at UIUC was created just about a year ago by several students who have a passion for neurotechnology and has since continued to be upheld by all of our current members. Over the course of the past few months, our team has been hard at work putting together our first ever neurotech project. So, without much further ado, NeuroTech at UIUC presents R-Cario.
So this semester, we spent our time building a mind-controlled RC car. And what that means is we basically built a device that would monitor your different facial movements and expressions and aim to convert those expressions into code that would control an RC car. And a very quick overview of this whole system, basically an user would wear an OpenBCI headset on their head. We'd have some nodes on their forehead that would be constantly looking for electrical signals from the brain. Then we ran some classification algorithms on these raw signals in hopes to convert them into different actions the user might perform. And for this project, we basically look for two things: right eye blinks and left eye blinks. So when the user blinks their right eye, the car will move right, and when the user blinks their left eye, the car will move left. And now to meet our amazing team. This year, we actually went online completely due to COVID, and this semester was our first semester with a large team like this working on one singular project. And even with all these different challenges, like people not being on campus, different time zones, and sometimes even different countries, it's quite amazing that our team was actually able to come together and successfully finish a project like this.
R-Cario is broken up into three different components: the RC car itself that physically mimics the motor signals from the brain, the classification algorithm, and lastly, a Livestream module that connects the RC car to our classification algorithm. Since we are a fairly new organization, we decided to take three different algorithms and choose the one that provided us with the best accuracy.
The RC card that we're using utilizes an Arduino Uno R3 board. The board received signals from the computer using a Bluetooth module. The computer first analyzes the EEG signal that we're collecting and sends motor control signals to Arduino. The Arduino then sends those signals to the L298S motor control board that controls 4-step motors on the RC car. This will allow us to use EEG signals to control the RC car to turn left or turn right.
I worked on a high dimension KNN approach where we took each observation, which was represented as a matrix, and flattened it into a vector. We ended up not using this method because left eye movements were almost never detected and right eye movements had a super high chance of being detected as no movement.
The approach I used was feeding spectrogram image data into a convolutional neural network in order to classify different movements. We generated the spectrogram data using the Fourier transforms of the raw data that we had gathered from the headsets. This approach did not yield too many results because the image sizes were too large in order to actually compile the model on our local computers, so we ended up rescaling the images, which then resulted in a loss of accuracy. In addition, we did not have enough data for there to be an accurate classification of any of the movements.
We started off by collecting data from 5-minute sessions where the subject would perform the particular actions. So the actions that we decided to use were left eye blink and right eye blink because through trial and error, we found that these were the actions that produced the highest accuracy. And we recorded the timestamps of when the action occurred, and for the entire data, we used 3 channels, and these 3 channels corresponded to the 3 electrodes on the forehead of the subject. And once we had the raw data ready, we grouped the observations into specific intervals. So specifically, we grouped our data into 1-second intervals, and we decided on using 1 second because we thought it was the best representation of how long our eye blinks would last. And we used the recorded action times to label each interval. So in our case, the left eye and the right eye blinks, and also no action when there was no action performed. And even after this pre-processing, we were getting a somewhat erratic number of observations per interval. So we decided to standardize these observations by limiting the number of observations to around 190 per interval. And this was done just to simplify the training process when the KNN model was being fed in the data. And we chose 190 as the limit because we had a reading of approximately around 195 readings per every 1 second interval.
Initially, we thought a Fourier transform would make the classifier's job easier, but we actually ended up sticking with just the intensity versus time data that was given from the EEG. And this is just because there seemed to be a lot of noise in the Fourier transform, and the classifier, after some trial and error, seemed to be giving poor results when compared with the intensity versus time data. And so we tried out a few different models and settled on the KNN for simplicity and speed in classification. And the model requires individual data points of n dimension as input. And this sort of inspired the way we transformed our standardized observations to be fed into the model. We took the mean of 190 samples on each channel for each interval. So each 1 second interval of the training data was reduced to 3 mean values, 1 for each channel. And when transferring this to the KNN model, this acts sort of like a 3-dimensional point in space. So our model uses the L2 norm, which is also known as Euclidean distance, to determine the closest neighbors and classify any given action. And the number of neighbors we used was 3. This was again chosen through trial and error. We just found that 3 neighbors gave the highest accuracy.
And to put all these different subcomponents and subsystems together, we created a Livestream module. And this is basically responsible for 3 different tasks. 1, it has to read in a data stream from an OpenBCI headset over Bluetooth. Then after getting in that raw data, we have to pre-process it and send it to a classification algorithm. And finally, once we get a response from that classification algorithm, we have to convert it into an action for the RC card to perform so that the user's intended action is properly transmitted. So even though our project might have come to an end this semester, it's still something we're actively going to try working on and improving. And one of the first things that comes to mind is kind of just adding support for a wider variety of tasks. And what that means is maybe including support for hand movements, different facial expressions, and even control of your feet so that people can just have more fine control of this RC car. Another problem we faced this semester was a lack of a good data set because we had to record our own data. Something we want to do is maybe get a better EG and keep focusing on developing and training more data points to just improve our general accuracy. Also, to get this RC car working, we had to use a KNN approach, which is not the most complicated or advanced. So in the future, we want to use a more state-of-the-art approach to get better accuracy for a wider variety and different range of people.
The best part about our entire project is the fact that R-Cario is our first project related to neurotechnology. When NeuroTechX reintroduced the fall competition to replace the old one canceled in April, we didn't really have a team for this project. Sohail and I quickly put together this team, and we officially started working on R-Cario in early October. Originally, we just wanted to see how far we could get, but soon we realized that a prototype was possible by late November. I could not be more proud of this team. Everyone has worked extremely hard to make R-Cario a reality.
Something that inspired this project was basically our vision for the future world. And what I mean by this is we were very fascinated by the thought of how one day people could be controlling actual real cars with their mind itself. And for this semester, we basically took that idea and wanted to simplify it down, which is why we created this RC car.
We'd like to take the time to thank everyone who made R-Cario possible. Thank you, NeuroTechX, OpenBCI, and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Thanks for watching.